Gentleman from Kentucky.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady, Mrs. Noem from South Dakota, who is a strong advocate for rural America and the creation of jobs in rural America.
Gentlelady from South Dakota is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. I rise in strong support of H.R. 1633 because I co-authored this bill with my friend and colleague, Mr. Hurt from Virginia, and I did it to bring certainty, regulatory certainty, to farmers and ranchers across this country. Farmers and ranchers have been working on this issue for a long time. We look forward to passing it off the House floor today. It's not a partisan issue. I introduced this with my colleagues, Mr. Boswell and Mr. Kizel, and 121 of my colleagues from both sides of the aisle are co-sponsors. The Clean Air Act is a worthy goal, but it's not a perfect law, and it does have unintended consequences. My bill would improve the current statute. It also makes permanent what the administrator has said, which is that she said she did not intend to regulate farm dust. Well, the South Dakota Farm Bureau President, Scott Vanderwall, said, quote, "If we don't deal with this issue today, it's going to be right back here 5 years from now," unquote. I'd like to reiterate why this bill is necessary. First, farm dust is already regulated. It is not a myth. It's very real to all of my constituents. We heard testimony from farmers in the hearing in committee that they're currently being regulated as a result of the EPA's standards. Regulation of farm dust is a problem today and will only continue to be a problem into the future if we do not pass this bill. If my colleagues will take the time to read the bill, they'll notice that this bill doesn't eliminate any regulations. It simply leaves the regulation of rural dust to the states and to the local communities who best understand how to manage what is happening in their own backyard. You know, too often bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., who've never stepped foot on a farm or lived in rural America try to impose a one-size-fits-all approach to regulations. Let's be realistic. Dust in rural America is not the same as dust in urban areas. It's a common sense that dust from a dirt road is much different from soot from a car. And it's common sense that they should be treated differently, which is exactly what this bill does. I would ask my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to consider this piece of legislation very carefully. Even if you're not from a rural area, this is still an important piece of legislation to all of us who rely on farmers to feed our families. You don't have to take my word for it. I have a letter right here of over 190 different organizations supporting this bill and its passage. Many of these organizations are local businesses and agriculture groups within all of our districts. They represent thousands and thousands of people across the country. Mr. Chairman, I ask that unanimous consent that this letter would be submitted for the record.
Without objection.
And let's not forget that we all reap the benefits of the success of our ag producers through safe, nutritious, and affordable food. Let's not burden our communities with overbearing regulations. Let's pass this common sense legislation, provide farmers, ranchers, and local businesses with the certainty that they need in an already volatile industry. I urge all of my colleagues to join me in support of rural America and vote yes on H.R. 1633. And Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that my written statement be submitted for the record as well.
Request is covered by general leave. General time has expired. Gentleman from California.
Mr.